Estás viendo Canal América, televisión dominicana para el mundo.
A Time for True show is sponsored by the Office of Dr. Bernard Fialkoff, a periodontal, dental implant and laser specialist in New York City, for over 40 years. Dr. Fialkoff was honored by the International College of Dentists and Pierre Fauchard, and received the Presidential Lifetime Humanitarian Honor from the White House. Call us at 718-229-3838.
Sometimes life can be so damn hard. You don't know where to go. Everything keeps falling apart. Yeah. You try to do your best, but only God knows that you've given everything you've got, but the world takes you down. You just keep moving on. Let your fears.
Welcome to A Time for Truth show. It's a pleasure to be back with you again tonight, and I'm your host, Dr. Bernard Fialkoff. Tonight we have a very special guest for you. Our world is beset by complexity. We have so much technology, artificial intelligence. But where has humanity gone? Where is simplicity, caring, responsibility, integrity? And tonight we have a very special guest who really has done some superhuman achievements in his lifetime that we'll be presenting to you, and who has a common sense approach to living a happy life, a life with integrity, and a life respecting each other, respecting the beliefs of others, respecting the ideas of others, and just really a good human being. And Buddha, if you will, let's put his pictures up on the screen and introduce our viewers to Stan Cottrell, raised in eastern Kentucky. We discovered his love of running, winning his first race, a 100-yard dash barefoot at his county fair in Kentucky, walking away with a blue ribbon at 12 years of age. There you see him with President Bush. Mr. Cottrell completed a 100-day coast-to-coast run across the United States 3 times and received the presidential and congressional awards for his achievements as a long-distance runner. He's received multiple accolades from foreign leaders, and all of this for his tremendous humanity. He runs for friendship and human tolerance, human agreement. He's a former Marine, an author of many books, two important ones, Thoughts on the Run and No Mountain Too High. He's held roles as a serial entrepreneur, a college instructor, coach, and was featured in numerous films. At the age of 80, Stan is a renowned ultra-distance runner, having been recognized by the Guinness Book of World Records multiple times. He's run through 5 continents, 40 different countries, including through China's Forbidden Zone in '84, bringing hope, encouragement, and great impact to all of humanity as he ran the China Great Wall. He was the first Southerner in the Boston Marathon, and in 1980 broke the Trans-USA record by running from New York to San Francisco in 48 days, another Guinness World Book record. As a former CEO executive of numerous companies, he's run more than 283,000 miles since 1955, another world record, including his friendship runs that he founded. Stan ran 3,100 miles from LA to New York in '80, 2,125 miles across the Great China Great Wall in '84, 6,000 miles in Russia in 92. 150 miles in Kenya. I guess he was just snoozing at that time in 2005. 2,022 miles through Georgia, Florida, and Tennessee as part of his, honor for Vet 22 suicide prevention, a run named in honor of the estimated 22 U.S. military vets who unfortunately commit suicide every day. He's launched the amazing Friendship Run as part of the nonprofit group Friendship Sports Association, which he founded. He has run to raise awareness for veterans who suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder, suicide, and other mental health challenges after their service. And now at 82, he's begun a 1,000-mile, 40-day amazing friendship run, equivalent to a marathon each day across Georgia, where he's bringing happiness and really bringing a way to happiness across Georgia to inspire a kinder, more decent America. His runs are never about speed, but a message that peace isn't a governmental policy or a political program, but Stan believes it's a personal responsibility. He doesn't believe that peace starts at the finish line, but begins with the next person that we meet today, tomorrow, in a few minutes. And Buddha, if you will, let's put him up live on the screen and bid this superhuman man to a Time for Truth show. Welcome, Stan Cottrell.
Glad to be here, Dr. Bernard. You're a great man. I want to meet this fellow you're describing tonight.
Well, you know what? I'm going to introduce all our viewers to him. This guy is an amazing Southern, human being, and who chased, I heard, a rabbit for 5 hours. But I want to get right to it because I know you've got a lot to share and you've got a great sense of humor. You've got a great heart, and you're doing this program to bring happiness across Georgia. So I want to ask you, I'm almost afraid to ask, but what were your dreams as a young man?
My dreams as a young man, I would go to the railroad track that ran through our county, and there'd be a train come through about every week, and that was the days. It wasn't the diesel locomotive; it was really the old choo-choo train, and there would be passengers on that, and I would see those people, and the train would come by, and by the depot, and there would be a mail bag, and there would be a big hook, and they'd take the hook off, and I would want, inside me, I wanted to travel, and I wanted to go wherever that railroad track went. I wanted to see where those people were going. I was 15 years old, and I had never really been more than 15 miles in a 15-mile radius at 15 years old. And so, and I wanted to meet people and just where did that train go? Did it had to stop and turn around and come back. And I wanted to go to that place wherever it stopped, and I wanted to come back.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. I was going to say, if you could, move a little bit to your right, and we'll center you better on the screen. A little bit more to your right. A little more. Perfect. A little more. Thank you so much. And what I wanted to ask you, because you're a Marine, and I know you're a very proud supporter of veterans, please tell us how your experience as a Marine shaped your life.
The Marines, one of the things that, boy, they impact you right off discipline. And the things you improvise, you adapt, you overcome. And little bitty things such as waking up in the morning, making your bed, getting squared away, taking a shower, shaving, brushing your teeth, and then going through the chow line and take whatever you want. But boy, you better eat every morsel. And every little bitty aspect in the Marine Corps. One of the things that they do in boot camp, they say they strip you down to nothing. They put a big magic marker number on your chest. And in those days, I mean, we ran around naked for about a day, and these doctors were doing all kinds of things, and they tear you down to nothing, and they say, we're building you back the Marine Corps way. But that discipline of character, that discipline of habits and so forth is so essential in everybody's life. And I think one of the worst things that's ever happened in our country, they took away the draft, because so many kids, they don't go to college. They make 4 psychological turnabouts between 18 and 22. But boy, there's just something about just the basics of life and learning manners. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. No, sir. No excuse, sir. And taking responsibility. I love that about the Marine Corps.
You know, it makes total sense. You know, I think discipline is something that the world has lost, and too much is everything goes, and the world doesn't live that way. You know, the life is a miracle, like you said, and we have to respect it, respect each other, and you know, you're absolutely 100% on the mark. I was going to ask you if you could move back just a little bit, because yeah, perfect, and a little bit to your right again. And you're like me. No, the other way. That's good. Yeah, you're like me. I'm a Cuban guy. I get very emotional. I move around a lot. So I see you're part Cuban already, even though you're in Kentucky. You know. So I was going to ask you, I want to please share your experiences, because you don't just run. I mean, you run such vast distances that I was talking to my wife last night. I said, I don't know where this guy comes from, but he's not from the Earth. He's got to be from Star Trek or Star Wars or some other galaxy, because you're unbelievable. So share your experiences when you're running. I mean, what's going through your mind? What is it like?
I'm going to reveal something. I'm going to either certify myself as Looney Tunes, or you're going to go, whoa, we need to tap into this even more. Running is like dreaming to me. And I've come up with my own little formula, EFED, even flow of energy distribution, even flow of emotional distribution. And I can literally just go, it's a semi-trance, I guess, that today, for instance, 97 degrees, humidity, horrible. I mean, it was just steamy hot, but yet I'm able to divorce the environment, and I just go into some kind of, it's another place in my mind, and the next thing I know, I've covered 25 or 30 miles, and it's just that even flow of energy distribution and emotional. But a number of times, now comes the Looney Tunes, all right? Several times I would be so into the running, and this usually happens after about 70 miles, but I have literally left my body and been on the other side of the road watching myself just run down the road, and I just laughing my fanny off. Look at that character. But it's interesting, but for obvious reasons.
Well, you know what? I want to tell you something. It's not Looney Tunes at all. I think you're, a genius. You're in the future on things we're going to discover. Because, when people talk about a great athlete like Michael Jordan, and they said that Michael Jordan could see the whole court 360 degrees, and that's why he was able to do what he did. But people really didn't pay attention to it. Other great athletes, they play football, and they say that they get in the zone, which what you were describing, getting in the zone. And I think that's why what you're doing, to me, is so important with this happiness you want to bring to people. Because if we look at life the way you're talking about, then we're the driver. And then this thing here that we have is the car. And our mind is like the computer. So what you're saying makes a lot of sense to me, that you as a human being, because what you do physically, I think, personally, I think is impossible. So the fact that you do something that I feel is physically impossible as a doctor. And I want to have you talk about the lactic acid and your lack of it, which is amazing. That, you know, you as a human being, which are so special already, makes a lot of sense to me. So I think what you said is something we've got to research more. And I think we're finding out more and more about this. But, you know, you told me the other day something that you don't actually have lactic acid, which is what gives the pain. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. Lactic acid is a buildup because the body is not being oxygenated. It's the big fancy term, doctor. When I say alveolar ventilation perfusion ratio, that's just simply how much the body is what amount of oxygen is being extrapolated per tidal volume or per breath. And the average person has it will be from 38 to 42% of one breath of air, which is 105 milliliters of oxygen out of a normal 500 milliliter breath of air. But oxygen makes up 21% of the atmosphere, so you've got 105 milliliters of oxygen available taken into the lungs. But the average individual, their physiology does not allow more than, say, 38 to 42 milliliters of that 105 to be utilized. The average individual has 1.87 capillaries per millimeter cube of muscle fiber. In the studies they've done on me, I have 3.87 capillaries per millimeter cube of muscle fiber. That's called collateral circulation. In other words, my superhighway system is not just some little 2-lane country road out in the middle of nowhere. I have a major arterial superhighway going on within me that I can run. There is an exchange of I'm getting rid of carbon dioxide, but I'm replacing it immediately with the oxygen in there. An O2 deficit produces a pyruvic acid, and a pyruvic acid without the input of oxygen and so forth, that converts to lactic acid. In other words, that's lactic acid. You're out of breath and all this kind of things. When I'm in races, I'll hear people, they're not even a factor any longer because they're out of the game when they're breathing hard because they do not have that one-to-one exchange. So it's in any kind of athletic endeavors, it simply is how well does your body utilize oxygen? And just doing things, simple things, going out and walking 7.5 minutes in one direction, 7.5 minutes back in another direction. It has a cumulative effect. That arterial highway begins to change. The body starts building wider highways within a person. That's why get off your rear ends and get out and start moving. It pays dividends out of this world.
It makes total sense. I think exercise is so important. The Surgeon General of the country and the CDC, the NIH, all trying to get us out to exercise, have better relationships. I want to really laud you too, because you've done so much. You know so many people across the globe that you could just hang out. You don't have to be doing this race that you're doing. Not a race, but really this marathon that you're doing, amazing, for 40 days, where you're trying to bring. Why is it you decided to bring like this happiness to the world? Why do you think the world needs happiness?
I see people, it doesn't matter what culture. I've been into 140 different countries. I've run across 43 countries. I've been back to those places. And there are certain things that the human being that are synonymous to all human beings. I mean, happiness, joy, peace, patience, and love and feeling significant. Everybody wants to feel important. And I mean, young men all over the earth, let's say an 18-year-old young man, he looks at a young lady and I mean, all 18-year-olds think synonymously when they look at some pretty beautiful young girl. In other words, that eye candy. I was talking to a lady yesterday, and she was just bubbling over. And her husband died about 10 years ago, and she started talking about this young man that was looking at her. And I said, Betty Jean, is he crushing on you? And she died laughing. She said, I haven't heard that term forever. Yes, he is crushing on me. Well, all young men all over the earth, they crush on a female. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing. They have these drives. But people feel sadness. People feel loneliness. People feel angry. Frustrations of everything in the world. But through the running, I bring, or I don't want to put the big I on the throne here. I am blessed to bring what I do and do well. And the experiment has now been almost 50 years of running across nations. And I bring the spirit of recess, those playful times way back, and that they used to have in school, elementary school. It was called recess, and we went out and we played together. And I bring recess to the world. We come out and we play. And I have one of the pictures you may have put up. I had 11 country leaders of South America that came out to run with me, and it came a rainstorm, and here we are out just jumping in the mud puddles and just playing, and you would just, I mean, we were all there, and somehow it all makes such good sense. There is a child in every person that wants to come out and play, male and female. And see, we lock people up. We tell them, it's time you grow up. It's time. I remember the days, oh my goodness, I was 22 years old. And they said, you mean you're still going to run? You need to get those notions out of your mind. Within every person, I look for that inner child that has been locked up. And I had my come to meeting with my inner child many years ago. And I just literally went into another, what we'll just call another state of being. And I found myself going down this long staircase. And as I was going down, I got to the bottom of the staircase and I looked down this hall. There was a dim light and it was misty. And I started moving cautiously toward the end of that hallway. And as I started getting closer and closer and closer, I heard male voices talking. And I go through that haze, and oh my Lord, there was my dad. There was Uncle Roy. There was Uncle Armin. There was Uncle Clyde. Wow. There was Tudor. There was all these people. And in that midst was this little bitty boy in there, and his eyes were swollen. And I was so glad to see all these people. And this little boy was all this kind of stuff. And I moved toward him, and I hold out my arms, and he jumps back. And I said, it's okay. It's okay. I'm your future. It's okay. Come here. Let me hold you. And he was cautious, and I held him up to me. And I looked at him, and I said, I'm sorry that I left you so many years ago. I'm never going to leave you again. And he just laid his little head over on me. And I turned around, and I was holding him. And I turned around to my dad and everybody, and I said, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for what you all have meant to me. But I've got to say goodbye to you now, because me and this little boy, we have a mission together. And that was that inner child. And everybody has that little boy, and every woman has that little girl that wants to come out and play. I offer recess to the world.
Wow. You know what? We're definitely going to have another show, because we're touching on some very important concepts here. And you're talking about spirituality. And, you know, I'll tell you something that we're going to base it on science for a moment. The Surgeon General of the United States of America, Dr. Vivek Murthy, 2 years ago, came out, and it's online, and he published an advisory. And in that advisory, based on science, what he said, not on philosophy, but science, that our human interaction causes us to be physically healthier, not mentally healthier, not emotionally healthier, but our physical communication, interaction, social, and he said scientifically that that causes us to be physically healthier. And then so I say, well, obviously, how does that happening? We're not touching each other, we're only talking to each other, but you hit it right on the mark. As a spiritual human being, we affect each other. And I think what you're saying is so on the point that we've got to let ourselves have a little more play in life. And you're so right. You know, we're getting to the end of the show, but I wanted to ask you, because I know a good friend of mine, Ludwig, introduced me to you, and I'm very happy he did. And Ludwig has this, Alpers, right. He has this great program called The Way to Happiness. What do you think about that program?
Well, I say I just happen to have this book here. Duh, look at there.
Yeah, but that way, move to the right, move to the right. A little more, and move it back. Keep going back, and now to your right. There you go. Go ahead. There, I see you. In front of the Washington, D.C. What's that book? Tell me.
And this is a phenomenal little book. I mean, it's the basics. It's like Willie Nelson and Waylon Jennings used to say, it's time to get back to the basics of life. These are the elementary building blocks in all cultures. It's cross-denominational, cross-cultural. I mean, reverence, respect, sincerity, kindness, tenderness, and just truthfulness. And these concepts, you learn them early in life, and you just keep on building. Those are the essentials of building blocks. My mother used to always tell me, you can use your manners. You can say, yes, ma'am, yes, sir, no, sir, excuse me, please, and thank you. And these are all kind of things that are covered. There are basics: integrity, telling the truth, being truthful to the point, just being kind to another person. And every time that a word comes out of our mouth, it's either interpreted as either psychotherapeutic or psychopathological. Here is a footprint, a guide on learning to make bells ring in harmony within yourself and with all the others that you come in contact with. The vast majority just hear one big loud clunk in their lives, and they just leave me alone. I've been this way all of my life. Where is your joy? Where is that zip in your and that go-to in your get along? And everything, you'll either hear bells ring, and this is a key to helping psychic bells ring within you. And I meet people, the Chinese had a statement about me. They said, Mr. Stan breaks every cultural rule in the book, but the people love him. And just these basics that are covered in here, I mean, people respond to a smile, a handshake. And I was just left a veterans group a little while ago, and here's about 75 veterans. I mean, old grizzled looking things. And I mean, that's okay. But I mean, and I went up to every one of them. I said, how about a hug, you big old wild woolly grizzle bear? And they started laughing. And we had one of the doggonest hug-ins you've ever seen.
You know, Stan, you and I could talk all night. We're going to have another show at the end of this week. Unfortunately, we run out of time. But you know what? I got to tell you, this has been a real pleasure for me, because I thought I was a little strange because I think I was an 8-year-old boy, but I feel better now because I see you're as young as I am.
Woo, 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 woo.
So you know what? Thank you so much, Stan Cottrell. Thank you for being on the show. And what's the name of this book again, so we get it for the viewers?
The way to happiness. There you go.
Go this way. Put it this way. A little bit this way. A little bit that. Yeah, there we go. Okay. And you know what? We want to thank Ludwig Alpers for making that book. Mr. Alpers, you're a good guy.
we're gonna nominate him for the AD award, the Awesome Dude Award.
That sounds good to me. You know what? This show is to be continued. Unfortunately, we run out of time. And if we don't end the show, there won't be a Dr. Fialkoff for the next show. So everybody watching, have a good night. And let's practice what Stan Cottrell said. Let's be nice to each other. And let's be little kids for a little while. Thank you so much. Thank you, Stan.
This show was sponsored by A Time for Truth Foundation Incorporated as a community service.
Sometimes life can be so damn hard. You don't know where to go. Everything keeps falling apart. Yeah. You try to do your best, but only God knows that you've given everything you've got, but the world takes you down. You just keep moving on. Let your feet